We've had two very exciting, wonderful, calming sessions before. So what I'm going to do is to bring to you a little more up more normal subject of economy. This is the book which I wrote last year and published it. It's about a year now. So this book is about the Indian economy as it is today, the state of the Indian economy, and what do you do to take it to a much higher level of, let's say, $10 trillion economy. Just to put in context, the Chinese economy today is about $16 trillion. We are at about $3.5 trillion. There is a long way to go. While everyone has dream, vision, and can sort of think about a developed economy or India #1 economy and those kind of things, talking about it is easy. Doing and reaching there is a lot more difficult. The idea of this book originated from, if you recall, the budget of India 2019-20, that interim budget that Mr. Piyush Goyal presented. In that budget, government officially talked about the $10 trillion economy by middle of 2030s. That was and it also set out a vision. So it's very rarely done that you set out a specific goal and also try to lay down a vision, which was done in that budget. Later on, probably the government became a little more realistic and lowered the ambition to 5 trillion. That's what we talk about these days all the time. For the last 3 to 4 years, we've been talking about $5 trillion economy by 24-25. Unfortunately, COVID happened. Also, some of the policy reforms, in my judgment, didn't take place. That's what we've seen that in last 4 years. I said this book with the base year of 2018-19, when we were about $2.7 trillion economy. And last 4 years, because of this, and especially that 2020-21, when we actually contracted, we had a negative growth of about 6.5%. So in last 4 years, including the current year, recently you would have seen the NSO had come out with the Indian economy's current GDP is about 273 lakh crores in terms of rupees, or about $3.4 trillion. So we have grown only at about 13% in last 4 years. So our growth has been somewhat much lower than anything which you would think is required for reaching to the goal of 10 trillion. When you set out a goal, you then try to, and that's where you heard Paul also explaining, to explain, visualize, sort of come out with possibly a plan and make it possible. So how do you go there? And for that, I think one thing which is required to do is to do a diagnostic of where we are and why we are doing the way we are doing today. And so in that book, the part 1, I take a very 360-degree kind of view of the entire Indian economy. You go through the sectoral sort of aspects of Indian economy, which is agriculture, industrial, services. You go through the financial side of the economy, where you talk about the money, currency, credit, finance, and other kind of things. And then you also take a very large canvas kind of view about the government, because government is the enabler. So budgetary and fiscal policies in terms of taxes, expenditure, deficits and all. So this book talks about, in the part 1, about this entire 360-degree diagnostic of the economy to cull out the lessons of what has gone right, what has gone wrong, and what probably is required to be done. That diagnostic told me a couple of things which I would just like to highlight today. One, that India ultimately see in economy the human resources or labor, as we call it in the economic terms, and the capital comes together, brought together by the enterprise, and that is puts on lots of enterprises to do production of goods and services, which ultimately adds value and is consumed by the millions and billions of people which we have. So that system which of bringing the entrepreneurial energy towards the utilization of the labor and the capital is very much decided and dictated in a way by the kind of policy which the governments adopt. What this book is trying to actually make a very big case is that the policy is as important, if not more, a factor of production as the labor or the capital is. If you get the policy right, you see the economy growing. If you don't get the policy right, that is where the problem would come. And that is what perhaps, so if you go back of 75 years of India's history so far, and look at the post-independence kind of phase, you realize that while a lot of good things were done, we established the democracy in the country, the rule of law was established, there were many good higher education institutions, the IITs and the IIMs were established, and lot of foundational work was done for the economic development of the country. But we probably got possibly influenced by what was happening in the communist kind of countries or socialist countries. So we went through the socialistic pattern of society and in a way given a short shrift to the private enterprise and placed too much of trust in the public sector. We reserved a very large portion of the economic activities for the public sector only, and whatever was permitted in the private sector was also subjected to this license, permit and that kind of activity, which is what resulted into the first 50 or 40 years at least of India witnessing much lower growth than what it deserved to get. We realized our mistake. In 1991 we made correction, and that brought a lot of dynamism to the economy and the country, and our growth also sort of accelerated. That agenda is still not complete. We are not a fully industrialized country here, but by the time we come to now, the present situation, the world has changed in a way. We were great during the agricultural age. We were not so good in the industrial age, where we actually got lagged behind. And now the challenge of the digital age, which is presenting you a very different kind of opportunities in times to come. So today, if I may put it, there are three major challenges or opportunities, if you like it. How do you construct and create a digital economy? How do you handle the environment and the opportunities offered by the environment? And how do you take care of the relative infrastructure which is needed for that? And if we can get the policy right for these meeting these challenges, we'll perhaps win the next race. But if we get it wrong or we mess it up, as we probably messed up, as I mentioned, in the task of industrializing the country, we will not be doing great work in that sense. 4 years underperformance in my judgment. If you take 2035 as the goal for this 10 trillion which I put into the book, then our task becomes much more complex to come. But we can do it if we get the policy right. That's the central message of the book. Thank you very much.